Alright, so this is the second video of this series, and I want to go ahead and show you how you can get some of your stuff set up. As a reminder, we need to go ahead and set up our style sheet. So to do that, I haven't really shown you how to type this because it always came with a template, but I want to remind you, this is something that is a good thing for you to know how to type, is the link um, element that's going to link up a new file. But before we do that, let's open this up a little bit more. And the other thing that I want to do is I want to go here next to working files. There's this little side-to-side icon, and I want to do a horizontal split so that we've got the HTML on the top and the CSS on the bottom. You can do it side by side so that it's a vertical split if you want. I think that for right now I'm going to try this, and I might switch at some point, but um, the thing I want to do is where it says open a file while this pane has focus, I'm going to click here. That's how you give a pane focus, is you click in the inside the pane, and then I'm going to go say file, new, and I want to create a new file. And see, right now it's showing up as in the bottom as Untitled 1. I'm just going to go to save it. We'll say file, save, and inside of my Pen05 folder, I'm going to go ahead and call this styles.css, and I'll save that. And if you remember, a style sheet doesn't have to have any kind of declaration or anything like that. Just I could start typing styles at any time. Now, one thing that you're going to see here is that, say that I went and I typed a rule for the body. Let's go ahead and do that. Say, and let's just give it a background color for right now, so that we can do kind of what we did before, where we made the background like red or something, so that we can see those SVGs. So I'll just say background is red, and I'm going to save this. Now, if you are in an older version of brackets, let's say you already had brackets and you don't have the most current version, if you are in a style sheet and then you go up here to live preview, there's a very good chance it's going to tell you that there's nothing to preview. It wants you to preview HTML. Okay, so in my case, the newer version, if I click here and I hit preview, it will go ahead and preview the HTML file that's open. But if yours behaves in some other way, make sure that you just change the focus to the HTML pane and then hit live preview. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. And we're going to see what we've got. And you'll notice that my background is not red. Okay, so you might wonder why that is. Well, the reason is because we haven't linked this HTML page to this CSS page yet. So I want to show you how to do that. Up in the head, not header, but the actual head of the document, that thing that's required as part of your HTML. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new tag that's called link. All right, and the link tag is going to link two files together as assets, resources. So there are two attributes that you must have for linking to a CSS page that's external. The first is going to be the href, right? So it's the hyperreference, where to go find it. And you'll see with brackets, it automatically, if I start to type href and then hit enter, it automatically does the equal signs with the double quotes, and it gives me options of what to choose from inside my project folder, because if you remember, I had already assigned my project folder to be that Pen05 folder that I allow you to download. If you haven't done that, you need to do that. You need to go over here, like right here, open folder, and you need to change the folder to be the Pen5. All right, so let's go ahead and do that again. So we'll go href, and then I just hit enter, and then I can go down here to styles.css because I've already created it like that. The next thing I have to do is I have to put a relationship. So if I start to type REL, all right, for relationship, you'll see that it shows up there. If I hit enter, it'll automatically prompt me to find that relationship. Well, the relationship of styles.css to this index file is that it's a style sheet. So if I start to type style, you'll see that it pops up with style sheet. Okay, and then I can end it. This is one of those self-closing tags or empty element tags. And if you remember, you don't have to have that / there at the end because it's HTML5. But if you want to, just for your own good practice, you can. It's totally legitimate. Now if I save this, now if we go back over to that page, let's go back here, you see that now it is red. Okay. All right. So if we jump back over here, we could start to change other things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of close this up a little bit. And I'm going to close this up a little bit too, so that I've got more horizontal space. And then I'm going to come over here and make this a little bit smaller so that I can see them a little bit better side by side. And the other thing too that I am going to have you do as part of setup, and it's going to make your life, I think, a little bit easier. I like it. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to do it. And so if you want to be able to follow along with the exact things that I'm doing, I suggest that you go ahead and do this as well. I'm going to go over here into my plugins, and I'm going to find a plugin. I want you to look for a plugin by doing a search for the word surround. All right. And it's called Brackets Surround. I already have it installed, but what this is going to allow you to do is the same thing that you can do in CodePen, where you highlight something and you do a shortcut command. You know, in this case it would be like Command-Shift-J or Control-Shift-J. And what it'll do is it'll allow you to wrap some kind of tag or something around the selection, so that you don't have to type the beginning and then go type the end somewhere. And all right, so anyway, I want you to install this, and I will give you a warning. On mine, what it did the first time is it gave me an error on the installation, and so I quit the application and I went back to install it again, and again it gave me an error on installation. But what you need to do is just because it gives you an error doesn't mean that it's not going to work. What you need to do is you need to quit brackets after it's installed and then relaunch it. And then what you can do is look for, under Edit, you're going to find the word Surround under Edit. And if it shows up with the word Surround, then you know that it's installed and it should work. And the way to test it is you do either one of two things. You can, let's just type something that I'm going to get rid of. So I'm going to type a paragraph that's got some junk in it. Okay, and then what I would do is I would highlight this paragraph, and I could either go up here to Edit and then just choose Surround, or I can also do this shortcut keyboard command, which is on my computer it's Shift, that's what this up arrow is, Shift and then the Command key on an Apple, or it would be Control on Windows and the letter J. Alright, and so I can either click on this like that, and it's going to pop up and say, what do you want to wrap this with? Let's say that I wanted to wrap it with a div. I would actually have to type the open and close bracket. I don't have to type the entire open tag and the close tag. This is all I'd need to type. And then it wraps my paragraph. You can see that paragraph is now wrapped in an opening div and a closing div. So it knows how to write those opening and closing tags, which is kind of nice. Now, if I undo that, while this is selected, the shortcut command on my computer was Command Shift and the letter J, and then it pops up, does the same thing. I could say div again, right, and then it wraps it. All right, I'm going to get rid of that. I just wanted to show you that. So go ahead and install that, because it's going to, I think it's going to be a time saver, and it's very helpful to have. Okay, the next thing that I want to do for basic setup is I want to go ahead and link up my Google Fonts. Now, when you were using CodePen, you had this really convenient little tool where you could just go and automatically select some really commonly used things, commonly used fonts. But this doesn't have that. So I'm going to show you the way that you actually go and select fonts from Google Fonts. All right, so I'm going to open a new tab, and I'm going to go to do a little search for Google Fonts, like that, and it'll be the first hit. So go ahead and click on Google Fonts. And I've shown you this once, but I'll show you again. And there is also a completely separate tutorial that you can watch that goes way more into Google Fonts than I'm going to go into here. But if you want to find a family to use, then you can do a search. Also, if you open this up, you'll see that it gives you some other options up here. All right, it goes into a non-mobile menu, and if you close it up, those links go away to this mobile menu right here. Okay, so what I can do is open this up, and if I want to do a quick search, I can click on the search tool and then I can filter out what I don't want. So let's say that I don't want any serif fonts, I don't want handwriting fonts, and I don't want monospace. Maybe some display fonts are okay. Let's get rid of the display fonts, because usually display fonts don't have very many styles. Usually it's best for headings, normally, not always, but usually. So let's just say that we're going to choose sans serif, and then you could go down and you could choose from any of the sans serifs. And what I usually look for is to see how many styles there are. If there are only 1 or 2 styles, I usually don't choose those unless it's really perfect. All right, but I think that what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick with Open Sans. I'm not going to spend a long time looking for something, but I strongly recommend that you do spend a long time looking for the right font for something that matters to you, right? So don't just, get bored and be like, okay, that's enough. I'm going to pick this. There are hundreds and hundreds of fonts. Take the time to look through them to find the right ones for your needs. Okay, so Open Sans has 10 styles. I'm going to use that. And so if I click this little button, the little plus button, you'll see that it says one family selected. If I click on that, it'll pop up and it allows me to either embed or customize. I'll click on customize. Right now it's only going to choose the regular 400 font. I would also probably like to have bold and maybe even light, right? And so it tells me my load time is going to be moderate for that choice. That's okay, I'm fine with that. So now I'll go back over to embed, and it gives me some different options as to how I can embed. I can either do the standard embed, which we have not been doing so far in this class. The standard embed is where you would take this, you would copy this, put it in your HTML file, and then in your CSS you would specify it here. The way we've been doing it so far is this @import. And so what I can do is I don't need the style tags, because that's something that would go into your HTML. What I would just need is this @import all the way down to here, right? And I can just copy that. I'll right click and copy. And then that's what would go into my style sheet. So let's jump back over here to my style sheet, and inside of the body tag, the first thing not inside the body tag, above the body tag, before I do anything else, I'm going to paste and load my font. That's the first thing that's going to happen once I load my style sheet. Okay, I'm going to load my fonts. Now the next thing is that you would need to come down back over here and look for font family. This is how you specify the font to use it in your CSS. We'll copy that. We'll jump back over to brackets. And now inside of my body tag, I can designate the font family like that. Okay, so and if you wanted to see the live preview, you can see that now everything is no longer in Times New Roman. It is using Open Sans. Okay, so at least that part is working. Let's come back over here, and I'm going to save everything. You can either do Command or Control S in each window, or you can go up here to File and you can say Save All. The shortcut is going to be this one here, right? So I'm just going to hit Save All. Okay, the other main setup that I have to deal with in terms of font is that I'm going to also specify the font size to set the base size. So we'll say that in the body, we'll do font size. And then if you remember, 1em and 100% at the very beginning is the same as 16 pixels. So if you set up your base size to be the standard base size, we'll go ahead and say 16 pixels. We'll base it in pixels, and then from that point forward, any ems or percentages are going to be based on this original font size, okay? That's going to cascade down into the entire page, all right? There are two other things that I want to do really quickly as part of a normal setup, and that is for the font. So after the font size, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell the margin to collapse on the body so that the margin for the whole page is 0. And let's see what we're doing over here in this page, and you'll see that right here you can tell that it is collapsed because the text is now right up against the bitter edge of the viewport. So that is working, and I think I said before that I was going to do this. Yeah, let's make this so that we can see it a little bit better. All right. All right, so I did that. And then the other thing too, which you're not going to see any changes, but as a best practice, I'm going to tell you to always go ahead and start with, is use your select all, which is the asterisk selector, and then you're going to type box sizing. So it's box sizing and then border box, like that. And what that is going to do, if you remember, is that it's going to make it so that your padding will be your padding and your borders will be recalculated if you give that element that has padding and border an overall width. It'll make sure that the padding and the border do not add to the overall width, but they work within the overall width. Okay, so these are the basic setup things that I'm going to do. I'll go back up here, do save all, and from this point forward, you can go ahead and move on to the next video.